I finally turned the key in the lock of my grandmother's antique shop for the first time as the owner, and the familiar smell of old wood and lavender sachets hit me like a warm hug. 3 months of renovations, countless sleepless nights, and every penny of my savings had gone into bringing Rosewood Antiques back to life. My grandmother had left it to me in her will, and I'd promised myself I'd make her proud. The shop looked nothing like the dusty, cluttered space I'd inherited. I'd refinished the original hardwood floors, installed proper lighting that made the crystal chandeliers sparkle, and organized the inventory into themed sections that actually made sense. The vintage jewelry cases gleamed under the new display lights. The Victorian furniture section looked like something out of a magazine. I'd even kept Grandma Rose's old cashier desk exactly where it had always been, right by the front window. I was standing there, taking it all in, when my phone buzzed. Thursday morning, 9:47 a.m. The shop wasn't set to open until Saturday's grand reopening, but I'd come in early to finalize the displays. When I saw my cousin Melissa's name on the screen, I almost didn't answer. We hadn't spoken in over a year, not since Grandma's funeral when she'd made a scene about the will. "Rachel! Finally!" Her voice was too bright, too cheerful. "I've been trying to reach you for weeks. Where have you been?" I'd been ignoring her calls, actually. "I've been busy with the shop, Melissa. What do you need?" "That's exactly what I'm calling about. Listen, I have the most amazing opportunity for both of us." She paused for dramatic effect. "You know my jewelry business, right?" I knew she'd failed at 3 different MLM schemes and had recently tried selling handmade jewelry on Etsy with 0 success. "Uh-huh. Well, I've pivoted my business model. Antiques and vintage jewelry go hand in hand, obviously. So I'm moving my inventory into Rosewood Antiques. Don't worry, I've already designed new display cases. They'll arrive Monday. You'll need to move your stuff to the back room to make space. Oh, and I'm bringing my business partner, Trevor. He's brilliant with social media. We're thinking we'll take the front half of the shop for the jewelry line, and you can keep the back for your dusty old furniture and whatever. We'll split everything 60-40. I'm being generous because you're family." I stood there, phone pressed to my ear, looking at the shop I'd just spent 3 months and $40,000 renovating. 60-40? Well, yeah. I mean, let's be realistic. My jewelry is what's going to bring in the real money. Your antique stuff is cute, but it's pretty niche. Plus, Trevor and I will be handling all the marketing and social media. You can just, dust things and help customers. It'll be perfect. We're planning to do a huge Instagram launch this weekend. I already told all my followers we're partnering. The engagement has been insane. Melissa, I don't think. Oh, and one more thing. I talked to a lawyer friend of mine. Since Grandma left the shop to you, but she'd always talked about wanting us to work together, I might have a legal claim to partnership anyway. But I'd rather not go that route because family, So let's just sign a simple partnership agreement. I'll bring it when we move in on Monday. This is going to be amazing, Rach. I can't wait. Okay, gotta run. Trevor and I have a photo shoot. See you Monday at 8 a.m. sharp. We'll need to start moving things around early. She hung up before I could respond. I stared at my phone, my hand shaking slightly. Not from fear, from rage. The same cousin who'd called me Grandma's little pet at the funeral. The same one who'd contested the will until her own mother, my Aunt Linda, told her to drop it. The same Melissa who'd barely visited Grandma in her last 2 years, but had suddenly shown up the week before she died, asking about valuable pieces in the shop. I stood there for exactly 30 seconds. Then I called my best friend Kate, who also happened to be a commercial real estate attorney. "Kate, yeah, it's me. Remember how you said if I ever needed legal help with the shop, you'd handle it? Well, funny story. My cousin just informed me she's moving into my business on Monday and expects me to sign over 60% of my shop. Can you meet me here in an hour?" Kate arrived 43 minutes later with her laptop, a file box, and a determined look I recognized from our college days when she'd argued her way onto the debate team. "Tell me everything." I replayed the conversation. Kate took notes, occasionally shaking her head. "Okay," she said when I finished. "First, she has 0 legal claim to the business. Your grandmother's will was airtight. I helped review it, remember? Second, even if she tried to file some frivolous partnership claim, she'd need proof that Rosemary explicitly promised her the business or a stake in it. Does she have anything like that? Not that I know of. Grandma was pretty clear with me that she wanted me to have the shop because I was the only one who'd actually worked here growing up. Melissa never even visited unless she needed money." Kate nodded. "Good. Now, what do you want to do? Because I'm guessing you didn't call me just to confirm she's full of it." I looked around the shop. At the vintage signs I'd carefully hung, at the restored display cases, at my grandmother's desk, where she used to let me sit and sort buttons while she worked. I want to make sure she can never pull something like this again. And I want her to understand that I'm not the pushover she thinks I am. Kate smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. I love it when you get that look. Okay, here's what we're going to do. Over the next hour, Kate laid out a plan. We reviewed my lease agreement with Mr. Chen, the building owner who'd known my grandmother for 30 years. We documented every text and voicemail Melissa had sent. Kate drafted a cease and desist letter. Then she made a phone call to Mr. Chen. Mr. Chen, this is Kate Morrison, Rachel's attorney. Yes, she's wonderful. Listen, I need to make you aware of a potential situation that could affect your property. When she hung up 20 minutes later, she was grinning. Mr. Chen is on board. In fact, he's pretty angry. Apparently, someone called his office last week claiming to be a new co-owner of the shop and requesting key access. He thought it was strange but figured you'd handle it. That was Melissa, by the way. She's been planning this. My stomach dropped. She tried to get keys? Yep. And get this, mister. Chen's assistant found an email in the spam folder from someone asking about modifying the lease to include an additional business partner. Sent from an account called M. Henderson. Business. That's her, right? Melissa Henderson. My cousin had been scheming about this for weeks, maybe months, probably since she'd heard through the family grapevine that I was reopening the shop. So, what now? I asked. Kate pulled out her phone. Now? You call her back. And you tell her sure. Come on Monday. You'd love to discuss the partnership. I must have looked confused because Kate explained, she's expecting you to argue, to fight, to give her a chance to play victim. She probably has a whole speech prepared about family and opportunities and how you're being selfish. Don't give her that satisfaction. Act completely agreeable. Let her think she's won. Meanwhile, we'll prepare. I understood. You want to catch her in the act. I want to catch her attempting fraud. Because that's what this is. She's trying to fraudulently claim ownership of your business, and she's been taking concrete steps to do it. The attempted key access. The email about the lease. If she shows up with a fake partnership agreement and tries to pressure you to sign it, especially with a witness she's brought, that's actionable. I picked up my phone and called Melissa back. She answered on the first ring. Rach, did you think about what I said? Isn't it exciting? I took a breath and channeled every acting skill I'd learned from high school theater. Yeah, Melissa. You know what? Come Monday. Let's talk about it. Bring your partnership agreement. I'd like to read it. The pause on her end was brief, but I caught it. She'd expected a fight. Oh, great. That's wonderful. You won't regret this, Rach. This is going to change both our lives. I'm sure it will. See you Monday at 8. I hung up and looked at Kate. Now what? Now we set up security cameras, document everything you've done to the shop, get written confirmation from Mr. Chen about the lease terms, and prepare for Monday. Oh, and I'm bringing my partner David. He specializes in business fraud. We'll be here as your legal team for this partnership discussion. She won't know we're lawyers until the right moment. The weekend passed in a blur. Saturday's grand reopening was beautiful. Dozens of neighbors and old customers came through, and I sold 3 vintage armchairs and a set of Depression-era glass that I'd priced higher than I thought anyone would pay. Sunday, I installed 3 discrete cameras Kate had recommended. Mr. Chen stopped by personally to confirm that only my name was on the lease and that he'd never consent to any partnership arrangement without written approval from me. Monday morning, I arrived at 7. Kate and David showed up at 7:30, both dressed casually in jeans and sweaters, looking nothing like lawyers. Kate carried a purse that concealed a small recording device. David had a camera ready on his phone, set to look like he was just scrolling. At 7:52, a U-Haul van pulled up outside. Melissa jumped out, followed by a guy in his 20s with an impressive man bun and a vintage camera around his neck. Trevor, I assumed. They opened the back of the van, and I saw boxes, lots of boxes, display cases, a standing sign that said Henderson and Hart Artisan Jewelry, a rack of what looked like necklaces and bracelets on velvet displays. Melissa spotted me through the window and waved enthusiastically. I unlocked the door. Rachel! Perfect timing! She swept in like she owned the place, Trevor trailing behind her. This is Trevor. Trevor, this is my cousin Rachel. She owns well. We're about to be co-owners of this space. Trevor nodded at me, already taking photos. Great light in here. Very Instagrammable. We'll want to change some things. But the bones are good. Melissa looked around the shop with an expression I recognized. It was the same look she'd had when she'd gone through Grandma's jewelry box at the funeral, mentally calculating values. Okay, so I'm thinking we move all this furniture to the storage room? That's in the back, right? The jewelry cases will go here, and we'll put the main display where that old desk is. That's going, obviously. That was Grandma's desk, I said quietly. I know, and it's sweet that you're sentimental. But Rachel, this is business. Nostalgia doesn't pay bills. Trevor, start measuring the front section. We need to know how much space we're working with. Trevor pulled out a tape measure and started measuring the floor space near the windows, the premium retail space that I'd carefully arranged with my best pieces. Kate cleared her throat. Excuse me, I'm Kate, Rachel's friend, and this is David. We're just here for moral support during this big decision. Melissa barely glanced at them. Oh, that's nice. Rachel's always needed people to hold her hand through things. Okay, Rach, where's the storage room? Trevor and I need to start moving your inventory so we can unload our stuff. We have another delivery coming at noon with the custom cases I ordered. You ordered custom cases? I asked. Of course. This is a professional operation. I invested $15,000 in inventory and displays. Well, Trevor's dad's credit card, technically. But we're business partners. It's all the same. She pulled a folder out of her designer bag. Now, let's get the paperwork out of the way so we can really get started. This is the partnership agreement. It's pretty standard. You sign here, here, and here. I already signed my parts. She handed me a document. I looked at the first page. Partnership agreement between Melissa Henderson and Rachel Hart for the operation of Rosewood Antiques, located at 847 Northwest Gleason Street, Portland, Oregon. I scanned through it. According to this document, Melissa and I would be 60-40 partners, with her having final say on all major business decisions. She would receive 60% of all profits. I would be responsible for daily operations and maintenance while she handled strategic direction and marketing. There was also a clause that said if the partnership dissolved, we would split all assets, including inventory, equally. It was worse than she'd described on the phone. Melissa, this says you get final say on all business decisions, but I own the shop. She waved her hand dismissively. That's just legal language. Look, I know you're nervous about sharing control, but that's what partnerships are about. Trust. Family. Besides, you need me. When was the last time you had more than 100 people through this door in a day? I have 12,000 Instagram followers. 12,000, Rachel. That's real marketing power. 3,000 of those are bots, Trevor said absently, still measuring. But we're working on organic growth. Melissa shot him a look. The point is, I bring reach and business savvy. You bring the space and some old furniture. It's a fair trade. I looked at Kate. She was scrolling through her phone, seemingly bored. But I saw her thumb move to what I knew was the record button on her concealed device. There's another issue, I said, looking back at the document. This says we split assets equally if the partnership ends. But all this inventory is mine. I bought it or inherited it. Well, yeah, but once we're partners, it becomes partnership property. That's how it works. Look, Rachel, I'm trying to help you here. This shop was dying when Grandma ran it. Everyone knows that. She barely made rent most months. I'm offering you a chance to make this place actually successful. But if you're going to be difficult about it, she trailed off, letting the threat hang in the air. What happens if I don't sign? I asked. Her expression hardened slightly, though she tried to maintain the friendly smile. Well, that would be really disappointing, and honestly, kind of selfish. Family is supposed to support each other. But if that's how you want to be, I'd have to talk to my lawyer about my legal options. Like I said, Grandma always talked about wanting us to work together. There are probably grounds for a claim. What lawyer? David spoke up for the first time. Sorry. Couldn't help overhearing. You have a lawyer who thinks you have a claim to this business? Melissa looked annoyed at the interruption. A friend who went to law school, yes. He said family business promises can create legal obligations. Interesting, David said. What law school? I don't see how that's your business, Melissa snapped. Rachel, are you going to sign this or not? Because Trevor and I have a lot of work to do, and frankly, I'm starting to feel like you're not being appreciative of this opportunity. I looked at the partnership agreement again, at my grandmother's desk. At the shop I'd worked so hard to restore. Then I looked at Kate. She nodded slightly. Melissa, I said slowly, before I sign anything, I have a few questions. Rachel, who did you talk to about getting a key to this building? She blinked. What? Why would I need a key if we're partners? You'd give me one. That's not what I asked. 2 weeks ago, someone called the building owner's office claiming to be a new co-owner and requesting key access. Was that you? Her face went slightly pale, but she recovered quickly. I might have called to ask about logistics. Future logistics. For planning purposes. That's just being prepared, Rachel. And the email about modifying the lease to include an additional business partner? Now she looked genuinely rattled. That was just preliminary inquiry. I was trying to understand the legal framework. The legal framework, Kate repeated, standing up. She pulled out her phone and tapped the screen. Her voice changed completely, losing the casual tone and becoming crisp and professional. Miss Henderson, I'm Kate Morrison, Miss Hart's attorney. This is David Chen, who specializes in business fraud. We've been recording this conversation with Miss Hart's consent as the property owner. In the last 15 minutes, you've attempted to pressure my client into signing a fraudulent partnership agreement, admitted to contacting the building owner while misrepresenting your relationship to this business, and made threats about legal action based on false premises. Would you like to add anything before I contact the district attorney's office? The color drained from Melissa's face. You're lawyers? Rachel, this is entrapment or something? It's actually not, David said pleasantly. You came here voluntarily with the intention of defrauding a business owner. We simply documented it. Also, that partnership agreement you drafted? It contains several clauses that would be unenforceable and possibly criminal, given that you have no legal right to this business. Attempting to obtain signature on a fraudulent contract is, in fact, a crime. Trevor had stopped measuring and was slowly backing toward the door. Melissa? I think I'm going to go. This isn't really what you said it was. Trevor, don't you dare, Melissa started. Your dad's credit card, I interrupted. Does he know you spent $15,000 on inventory for a business you don't actually own? Trevor was out the door. Melissa whirled on me. You set me up. You sneaky little after everything our family has done for you? This is how you act? Grandma would be ashamed of you. Grandma left me this shop? I said quietly. Not you, not us, me. Because I was here, every summer, learning how to restore furniture and price inventory and talk to customers. I was here when she got sick, helping her keep the doors open. Where were you? I had my own life. I couldn't just drop everything to play shopkeeper. No, but you could drop everything to try to steal my business. Kate stepped forward. Miss Henderson, here's what's going to happen. You're going to remove your belongings from the van parked outside and leave this property. You will not contact Miss Hart again except through legal counsel. You will not post anything on social media about this business or any alleged partnership. If you do, we will file for a restraining order and press charges for attempted fraud. Do you understand? You can't do this. I'll sue. I'll tell everyone what you did. Please do, David said. In fact, if you'd like to file a civil suit, that would actually make our case easier. We'd get to depose you under oath about your attempts to access this property fraudulently, your fake partnership agreement, and your misrepresentations to the building owner. Discovery would be fascinating. Melissa grabbed her folder, her hands shaking. This isn't over, Rachel. You think you can just... Mr. Chen walked through the door at that moment, right on cue. Kate had texted him 5 minutes earlier. Miss Henderson, he said in his quiet, formal way. I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you to leave my property. As the building owner, I've been made aware of your attempts to fraudulently access this space and misrepresent your relationship to my tenant. If you don't leave immediately, I will call the police for trespassing. It was the police that did it. Melissa's face crumpled, and for a second, she looked like she might cry. But then her expression hardened into something ugly. Fine. But you're going to regret this, Rachel. When everyone finds out what kind of person you really are, when I tell Aunt Linda and Uncle Marcus and everyone else in the family how you treated me, you mean the family that already knows about the will dispute? Kate asked. The one where your own mother told you to drop it because you had no case? That family? Melissa's mouth opened and closed. Then she turned and stormed out, leaving the folder on my grandmother's desk. Through the window, we watched her and Trevor load the boxes back into the U-Haul. It took them 20 minutes. Trevor kept looking at his phone, probably reading the text from his dad asking about the credit card charges. Melissa threw boxes into the van with increasing violence. When they finally drove away, I sat down in my grandmother's chair and let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. You okay? Kate asked gently. I think so. I looked at the partnership agreement still sitting on the desk. She really thought that would work. She really thought I'd just hand over my business. Some people see kindness as weakness, Mr. Chen said. Your grandmother knew better. She knew you have steel under that kind heart. That's why she left you this shop. Over the next week, 3 things happened. First, Melissa's mother, my Aunt Linda, called me. I almost didn't answer, but Kate had advised me to document everything. Rachel, honey, I just heard about what happened with Melissa. Aunt Linda sounded tired. I want you to know I had no idea she was planning any of that. When your grandmother left you the shop, I told Melissa to be happy for you. I thought she'd accepted it. She tried to forge a partnership agreement and fraudulently access my property, I said. I know. She told me some version of it, a very different version, but I got enough of the truth out of her to understand what really happened. I'm so sorry, Rachel. I've already told her she needs to get professional help. This obsession with shortcuts and get-rich-quick schemes, it's gotten out of control. For what it's worth, your grandmother would be proud of how you handled it. It was the closest thing to an apology I'd get, and honestly, it was more than I'd expected. Second, Trevor's dad called the police and reported the credit card fraud. Apparently, $15,000 was enough to trigger an investigation. When the detective contacted me for a statement, I provided everything: the recordings, the fraudulent partnership agreement, the documentation of her attempted access to my property. The detective told me they were building a case for identity theft and fraud. Trevor, it turned out, was cooperating fully in exchange for not being charged as an accessory. Third, and most importantly, my shop started to thrive. Word got around the neighborhood about what had happened. Small business districts are tight-knit communities, and people went out of their way to stop by. Some out of curiosity, sure, but many because they genuinely wanted to support a local business owner who'd stood up for herself. An elderly woman came in on a Wednesday and told me she'd been friends with my grandmother. Rose used to tell me about you, she said, running her hand over the restored surface of an oak sideboard. How you'd spend hours in the back room, fixing broken things. She said you saw value where other people just saw junk. I can see she was right. She bought the sideboard and commissioned me to restore a set of dining chairs that had been in her family for 3 generations. By the end of the month, I'd made enough profit to hire a part-time assistant, a college student named Amy, who was studying art history and got genuinely excited about a set of mid-century modern lamps I'd found at an estate sale. I never heard from Melissa again directly, but I heard through the family grapevine that she'd been charged with fraud and identity theft. Her lawyer had worked out a plea deal: 2 years probation, community service, and mandatory counseling, plus restitution to Trevor's father for the credit card charges. The charges related to my case were dropped as part of the agreement, but only because Kate had convinced me that dragging it through court would be more stress than it was worth. She's already facing consequences, Kate had said, and you've got your business back. Sometimes winning means knowing when to let go. On a Thursday evening in late October, I was closing up the shop when I found an envelope tucked into the mail slot. Inside was a card, plain white, no signature. Just 4 words in handwriting I didn't recognize. Your grandmother was right. I didn't know who sent it, and I didn't need to. I tucked the card into the frame of the mirror behind Grandma's desk, right next to the photo of her on opening day in 1987. The shop was quiet. The afternoon sun slanted through the front windows, making the crystal chandeliers throw rainbows across the floor. Somewhere in the back room, the old building settled with a familiar creak. Outside, I could hear the sounds of the neighborhood winding down for the day. I locked up, set the alarm, and walked to my car. Tomorrow, I'd be here at 9 a.m. to meet with a client interested in a Victorian writing desk. Next week, I had an appointment with a collector who wanted me to appraise an estate's worth of Art Deco pieces. In a month, I'd be teaching a workshop on furniture restoration at the community center. My phone buzzed with a text from Kate. Drinks Friday to celebrate your 3-month anniversary as a badass business owner? I smiled and typed back, absolutely. As I drove home through the tree-lined streets of Portland, past the coffee shops and bookstores and little restaurants where I'd spent so much of my life, I thought about my grandmother, about the hours she'd spent teaching me to see the beauty in broken things, to understand that with patience and care, almost anything could be restored. She'd left me more than a shop. She'd left me proof that I was stronger than I'd known, that kindness didn't mean weakness, and that sometimes the best revenge was simply living well and building something worth protecting. The shop was mine. The life was mine. And no one, not Melissa, not anyone could take that away.